Alright, so the ATF, they replied. Before we get started with this video, you need to go subscribe to Crump. He's the one where this information comes from. He's the one that feeds all of us YouTubers our information. He needs to be supported. So basically, if you're not up to speed, so Rare Breed, they received a cease and desist, and they were like, hey, basically go we're not replying to that. You didn't provide evidence. What you're saying doesn't make sense because it doesn't fit the definition of a trigger. There is also this other trigger that's had an approval letter since 2013 that is functionality basically the same as ours. Yes, ours works better, but it's basically the same thing. So they sent that to the ATF. The ATF has now replied. So let's kind of go over what's going on with that. So the gist of it, this agent, what's his name? David Smith. That shit's totally made up. The FEO, David Smith, we'll pretend his real name is. He basically said a whole bunch of crap that doesn't make sense, but what he's getting at, but he didn't know how to vocalize it, is he has now changed the definition of a machine gun to conscious thought. What he is saying, because the Rare Breed trigger, you pull back the trigger. The firearm fires, a piece of the mechanics don't really matter, but the point is the trigger goes forward by itself. So the only conscious thought you have to apply to it is pulling it to the rear, which can bring your cyclet rate up to the max of what a firearm is capable of doing. He is saying because he didn't have to mentally think about releasing the trigger, that counts as one function of your finger, which should have nothing to do with the part itself, because that's you. So unless you're going to get a tax stamp, that doesn't make any sense. But the point is, he said because you don't have to consciously think about the reset, that is now a machine gun. Now, he doesn't put it in those words, but that's what he's getting to. Like, he's trying to put it into words, but apparently he's not very intelligent, because it should have been, like, easy, like, conscious thought. That's simple. That's exactly what you just said was, is it or is it not conscious thought? Because you don't need to consciously think about the reset. Therefore, that is a machine gun because it is happening automatically, even though that's your body that's doing it automatically. He said, well, no, because your body's doing it and you're using that part, therefore that part is dubbed as a machine gun. It kind of feels like they're going to ultimately go after semi-autos. You know, maybe at some point they're going to take out the return spring on the trigger, because the return spring on the trigger does the exact same thing that the force reset trigger does, except it's not forcefully. So for the force reset trigger to be a machine gun, that would mean a return spring on a semi-automatic would also be a machine gun, because they function the exact same way. It just doesn't work as well, because you have to physically think, okay, now let go of my finger. All right, now pull my finger. The force reset trigger just pushes your finger forward. But functionality speaking, it does the same exact job as a return spring on a trigger. So at some point, we might wind up with like a circle trigger with your finger in there where you have to consciously think about both, because now the return springs are becoming machine guns. Because even in this dumb shit's letter, he said parts that, oh God, I wish I had it in front of me of how I worded it. But he goes on to talk about springs and stuff like that, basically implying a semi-auto also with a return spring is now a machine gun. That little spring is. So we'll have to see how things develop from there. So what do you need to take away from all this? We need to support this company because they are fighting the ATF, so you don't have to. By them fighting the ATF, all you have to do is get behind them and make sure they win and fight the ATF, and that will prevent the ATF from going at you. Because there's three types of people. There's the people actively fighting the ATF, there are the people that are supporting the people fighting the ATF, and then there's the people that just run and hide. You don't want to be this person because you're not adding anything to it. Another thing I want you guys to understand, it in itself is a machine gun. Now, I keep pushing this point, which you would probably think is weird because I'm always like, pro-freedom and, hey, any part that's close to a machine gun is awesome. The reason I'm pushing this point is because there's a lot of people downplaying it and losing the gravity of the situation. If you get caught with that, that is a machine gun. Best case scenario, he wins this against the ATF. They are no longer a machine gun. However, minimal, we're looking at like 2 years before this case is resolved. So say you got picked up tomorrow with one of these force reset triggers, you're going to be sitting in jail for at least 2 years while they hash this out. Now, if he loses it, well, now that the definition of a machine gun has effectively been changed to conscious thought, that is the only difference. So, understand, these parts are a machine gun. Will he or will he not win? I don't know. They've had the cease and desist since July 26th. They continue to sell them. He's representing himself, which I totally would not do. Lawyer or not, I would have somebody else represent me this way. Should something wrong get said, that's just hearsay. It's not you being directly quoted. Right now, he's walking on razor blades and eggshells by representing himself because everything he says, he said that. Where if he had a lawyer representing him, he could have his lawyer say something, and then they could always backpedal on that and be like, oh, that's not what I meant to my lawyer. You know, it gives you a margin of error. So he's representing himself. He didn't stop with the cease and desist. He's still continuing to sell them and ship them. Now you might be thinking, well, he's taking cryptocurrency, so I don't have to worry. No, they'll just go to the post office and be like, hey, I need to know every address this company has shipped to. Now, will the feds come to your door and arrest you for being a felon? Probably not. But you should expect to see some sort of letter like, hey, you need to turn in and or destroy this. Whether or not that is hand-delivered or not, just remember, if it is hand-delivered, don't say anything to them. You can't talk yourself out of being arrested. However, you can most definitely talk yourself into being arrested. So, am I being detained? Am I being arrested? After they say no, be like, okay, we're done here. Any further questions? You're going to have to talk to my lawyer. That's the biggest thing I want to push, though, because it is being played down. Understand, these are machine guns. They most definitely are. I don't know what you should or should not do with it, except for I would definitely not take that to a public shooting range or post pictures on the internet or talk about it on the internet or anything that would wrap you up into a case, because even if they win this and you get caught now, minimal, you're in jail for like 2 years while they hash all this shit out. And they'll charge you. But then if they win, obviously your charges will be dropped, but you still spent like 2 years in jail. Or they'll lose it, and then you'll go in front of a judge, and it's pretty freaking hard to argue that you didn't have criminal intent when you bought it after it was public information that it is a machine gun. So you have illegally purchased a machine gun. But anyway, that is the update. As the story progresses and as things go on, I will keep you guys posted to the best of my ability. If you'd like to help support the channel, got my Patreon right there. I also have affiliate links in the description down below. Just by clicking on those links. Doing the Amazon shopping you were already going to do anyway. And a little kickback for it because you came there off my channel. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.